And really, this is a very, very important. So I want to talk to you now about IRS Form 7200. I want to give you line by line instructions. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, folks, to another edition of the Awesome Sweetie Kiwi Show. How are you today? I hope you are doing fantastic. I'm doing marvelous, if you were to ask me. If you are doing as great as I am, go grab a cup of coffee or tea or vodka and let's roll. In today's conversation, we have a pivotal concept. We want to talk about Form 7200. Now, employers who file any of the following employment tax form may file a Form 7200 to request an advance payment of the tax credit for qualified sick, family leave wages, and the employee retention credit. So those forms are 941, 943, 944, or CTI 1. I will talk about those later on. But before, let's just go to the foundation here. What is Form 7200? The IRS Form 7200, Advance Payment of Employer Credits Due to COVID-19, is a new IRS form that allows an employer to request an advance payment of the tax credits under the law and the CARES Act. So there are two pieces of legislation here. You have the FFCRA, and then you have the CARES Act. All right. And the thing here is that if you choose not to request the advance payment, you will see the credit when your 941 is filed. The credit will roll over to the next quarter and be applied to future payments. You may file Form 7200 for qualified sick leave wages and qualified family leave wages paid between April 1st, 2020 and December 31st, 2020. And you can file Form 7200 if you cannot reduce all of your 941 tax deposits to fully account for the credit. All right. And the thing here is that if you have already taken the credit against your 941 liabilities, you cannot claim those amounts on the 7200. I will explain this a little on throughout the show. So let's go to the line by line instructions. So number one, you want to enter your business information. You have it on the screen right now. You can see it. First, you want to complete your basic business details. In box 1, you need to enter employer data. So here you enter the name. And I want you to look at the screen right now, folks. I want you to follow with me. Take notes as we go along. Very important. All right. Are you with me? You're with me, right? Okay. So box 1, you want to enter the name, business name, address, foreign address, third-party payers, details, and EIN. EIN is your employer identification number. In box 2, you need to choose the applicable calendar quarter. The 7200 is a quarterly affair here. It's not a annual affair. So in box 2, you need to choose the calendar quarter of 2020 for which Form 7200 is being filed. So if you file an annual employment tax return, you should still check the box to indicate the applicable calendar quarter of 2020 in which the wages are paid. Very important. Let's move on here, and here we have a part 1. So complete part 1 with me. Are you with me? You're still with me, right? So it says, tell us about your employment tax return. So here, part 1 reports the employment, as you can see on the screen here. I want you to look at the screen. Part 1 reports the employment tax return types and recently filed details. And part 1 consists of 4 lines, so A through D, and where each line is explained in detail with the information that must be entered. So line A through D. So line A, you need to check the box to your employment tax return type that you filed for 2020. So employment tax return types are Form 941 PR-SS, Form 941-PR, Form 944-SP, and Form CT1. And line B, check the box if you are a new business that started on or after January 1st to 2020. So if yes, your business has not yet filed any employment tax return, so you want to skip line C. And if no, complete employment tax return information details on line C. So you want to skip to line C if your business is new. All right. So what about line C? Let's break it down here. Line C indicates the amount reported on line 2 of your most recently filed Form 941. So the IRS will verify this information with the employer that the credit is being paid to the correct or not. Very important, all right? So if your wages are reported on Schedule R of Form 941, you want to enter the wages reported by your third-party payer for your EIN on its most recently filed Schedule R of Form 941 on column C. If your wages are reported on Schedule R of Form 943, you want to enter the Social Security tax reported by your third-party payer for your EIN on its most recently filed Schedule R of Form 943, column C. So Form 941 PR, line 5A, you have, this is a salarios sujetos a la contribución al seguro social. This is for Social Security. It's in Spanish. So you need to enter the amounts reported in column 1. And line 41 SS, line 5A, taxable Social Security wages. So you want to enter the amount reported in column 1. And in Form 943, line 2, you have total wages subject to Social Security tax. Form 943 PR. First, I'm going through all the different sections here, all right? So be with me. So we have a line 2, we have Form 943, rather, line 2, total wages subject to Social Security tax. Form 943 PR, line 2, this is a total de salarios sujetos a la contribución al seguro social. This is also Social Security payments in Spanish. 944, you have line 1, wages, tips, and other compensation. Line of 944 SP, this is in Spanish. Line 1, so you have salarios, propinas, y otras remuneraciones. I think this is like payments. And Form CT1, line 1, tier 1, employer tax, compensation other than tips and sick pay. So you want to enter the amount reported in the compensation column. And line D, you want to enter the total number of employees you have. This is very important. If in your business, if you have 500 or more employees, then you are not eligible to claim the credit for qualified paid sick and family leave wages. And employee retention credit may be based on the number of employees you have. So if you have more questions, you need more information on this section, you want to visit irs.gov/coronavirus so you can get more information about the coronavirus tax relief. I want to talk to you now about Part 2. So you need to enter your credit and advance requested. So you can see on the screen right now, we have Part 2. We have a snapshot of Part 2. So Part 2 requires information about tax credit for the quarter and advanced credits requested on previous filings on this form for this quarter. So Part 2 will consist of 8 lines where each line is explained in detail with the information that must be entered. So let's go through line 1 to 8. So line 1, total employee retention credit for the quarter. So you want to enter 50%. Very important, 50% of the amount of the qualified wages you paid to your employees as of the current quarter. Do not enter, now repeat, do not enter the full amount, just enter only 50% of the qualified wages. Qualified wages may not exceed 50% of $10,000, that's $5,000, for any employer for all quarters. On line 2, you need to, this is the total qualified sick leave wages eligible for the credit and paid this quarter. So you want to enter the qualified sick leave wages you paid as of in the current quarter, right? And qualified sick leave wages are the wages required to be paid under the EPSLA. What is the EPSLA? This is the Employer Paid Sick Leave Act. This requires employers with less than 500 employees to provide paid sick leave to employees unable to work because the employee is subject to a federal, state, or a local quarantine or isolation order related to COVID-19. The employee has been advised by the healthcare provider to self-quarantine due to concern related to COVID-19. The employee is experiencing symptoms of COVID-19 and seeking a medical diagnosis. The employee is caring for a child if the school or place of care has been closed, or the child care provider is unavailable due to COVID-19 precautions, or the employee is experiencing any other substantially similar condition specified by the United States Department of Health and Human Services. Now, I just want to mention that the EPSLA, the Emergency Paid Sick Leave Act, is a dynamic element. It's a dynamic piece of legislation because we are still in the COVID-19 in this pandemic crisis. So things are changing. So again, go back to the irs.gov/coronavirus to have all the information about the EPSLA, or you can just go to the United States Department of Health and Human Services, the HHS, to have more info. I'll be right back right after this. Don't go anywhere, folks. Welcome back, folks, to another section of the Awesome Sweetie Kiwi Show. I'm still giving you a line-by-line instructions on Form 7200. So line 3, total qualified family leave wages eligible for the credit and paid this quarter. So here you want to enter the qualified family leave wages you paid as of in the current quarter. Qualified family leave wages are basically the wages required to be paid under the Emergency, Family, and Medical Leave Expansion Act. And line 4, you want to add lines 1, 2, and 3 and of part 2, and you want to enter the results on line 4. All right, so adding total employee retention credit, qualified sick leave wages eligible for the credit, and qualified family leave wages eligible for the credit and paid to the employee in this current quarter. Line 5, this is the total amount by which you have already reduced your federal employment tax deposits for this credit for this quarter. Line 6, this is the total advance credits requested on previous filings on this form for the quarter. So if you did not enter any amount in line 5 and 6, or you enter the incorrect amount, you may have an underpayment when you file your employment tax return. So be very careful here. Line 7, you want to add line 5 and 6, and you want to enter the result on line 7. For line 8, advance requested, you want to subtract line 7 amount from line 4 amount, and you want to enter the amount on line 8. So let me give you an example. If suppose line 8 amount is 0 or less, then you don't have to file Form 7200 because you're not eligible to receive an advance. If line 8 amount is more than 0, then you will need to report the amount of the advance that you request on your employment tax return for the return period, as well as the amounts that you requested on line 8 of other forms 7200 that you filed during the return period. Remember, again, Form 7200 is a quarterly affair, so you are actually getting tax credit on a quarterly basis. So if you had filed other Form 7200 during the return period, you have to go back to those forms and see how you can actually you can actually roll over tax credits from those forms to this current form that you're filing. And now we have the as you can see on the screen right now, you need to enter other relevant information. So as you can see on the screen here, we have a third-party designee. So what is a third-party designee? This is something that a lot of business filers need to understand. A third-party designee is authorized by the employer to discuss their return with the IRS. This is basically someone that you have appointed, and that person is doesn't work for you. This is a contractor or another company, and they will discuss your tax issues with the Internal Revenue Service. So you want to check yes if you wish to discuss this return with the IRS and provide the designee name and phone number. Also, you need to enter the 5-digit PIN to use while talking with the IRS. That way the IRS knows that the conversation is secure and that you are indeed the person who authorized the designee to talk about your return to the IRS. And you can check no if you don't wish to discuss it. And on the signature line, so once each and every line is completed, you are required to sign Form 7200. You need to sign. If you don't sign, the IRS will not process your Form 7200. All right. So the following persons are authorized to sign the return for each type of business entity. So we're going to put this on the screen here, and I want you to please pay attention, and you can even take a screenshot so you can remember. So for a sole proprietorship, the individual who owns a company must sign. The corporation or an LLC treated as a corporation, the signatory person can be the president, vice president, or other principal officers. If we have a partnership or an LLC treated as a partnership, a partner, member, or officer can sign. If we have a single member LLC, the owner of the LLC or a principal officer should sign. If we have a trust or estate, the fiduciary of that trust or estate should sign. And the third element here is if you have a paid preparer. So Form 7200 may be signed by a duly authorized agent of the taxpayer if a valid power of attorney has been filed. All right. So a paid preparer must sign Form 7200 and provide the information in the paid preparer's use only section if the preparer was paid to prepare Form 7200 and is not an employee of the filing entity. All right. And the preparer must give you a copy of Form 7200 in addition to the copy to be filed with the IRS. All right, folks, this is it for today's conversation. I really appreciate your attention. So I was just talking to you about Form 7200, and I was giving you line-by-line instructions. I wish you I wish you happy filing, and I will see you next time. But until then, remember, stay marvelous.